Konnor Griffin's already in Double A, and he's still too young to rent a car. Meanwhile, the Pirates' rotation looks like a group project gone wrong. Let's sort through the chaos next on Locked On Pirates.
You are Locked On Pirates, your daily Pittsburgh Pirates podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Pirates, your daily podcast on the Pittsburgh Baseball Club, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Gary Morgan. Today, we're diving into a promotion of baseball's top prospect, Konnor Griffin, the Pirates' chaotic rotation situation, and some roster decisions looming as we approach September. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Football season is around the corner. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets now. Let's get started with Konnor Griffin, man. Exciting news broke on Sunday. Noah Hiles reported it first that Konnor Griffin was being promoted to Double-A Altoona. And man, has he ever earned it? Like, we always say that this stuff is not linear. And Konnor Griffin is doing just about everything he can to prove us wrong. Because for some prospects, and they're very few and far between, it is very much so a straight line from draft straight up through. And he just has not met hiccups yet. Nothing major. I mean, he had a little bit of a spell in Bradenton of struggling to catch up to curveballs. I think it lasted almost a week. He straightened it out. Yeah, unbelievable stuff. Let's talk some stats, right? In Greensboro, he had played 51 games, a 325 average, a 432 on base percentage, 510 slug, and a 942 OPS. I mean, that's just Greensboro 51 games, right? 63 hits, 7 home runs, 36 RBI, 33 stolen bases. That follows 50 games in Bradenton. 388 average there, 396 on base percentage, 536 slug, 932. Listen, it was exciting when he did what he did in Bradenton. But it was also not entirely unexpected. This was a really highly touted high school player, a really toolsy player, somebody that it looked like would have a decent chance of dominating single A at the low level. And he did. So, I mean, I tried to temper my excitement a little bit, even though we're talking like killing the level. 26 stolen bases in 50 games, 70 hits in those 50 games, 9 home runs, 36 RBI again. I mean, dominate both of these high and low A levels. The cumulative stats for what he's done this season are insane. Put them both together. 331 average, a 408 on base percentage, a 945 OPS. That's 369 at bats with 122 hits, people. 16 home runs, 67 RBI, and 50 stolen bases. Good God in the goose fat. This kid is not a joke. Let's talk about the age comparisons, like for what he is and where he should be, right? So he's 19 years old. When he debuts in Altoona, he will be the youngest player to ever have done so. That's for sure. He's going to beat Termar by a little bit. Average age of a Double-A player is just over 24 years old. That makes Griffin significantly younger than his new competition he's about to face. Now, he's coming in at a weird time where this should be right after some guys have gotten promoted from Double-A up to Triple-A on some teams. And there should be a batch of guys like Konnor Griffin getting promoted up to Double-A at this point. So in many ways, he's just going to continue with his other outstanding contemporaries, I would imagine. And he'll probably miss the guys that were just a step ahead of him and kept stride themselves. So I'm not 100% sure how much this competition is really going to change for him. But still, it's his third level in one season, and he's done it all as a 19-year-old, which is just crazy. When he gets to AAA, the average age in AAA goes up to 26, a little over 26. So you're talking he's 7 years younger than some of those kids now, right? I mean, like, insane. Most players at the level he's at right now, you're talking college draftees, seasoned prospects. These are guys that have probably started in the FCL and they fought through a year in Bradenton or the equivalent thereof on another team. And man, maybe they stalled out in Greensboro for a little over a season, had to start it over again. Or either way, they've gone maybe a season a level, which is fairly normal for a normal prospect. And when he faces them, they've got significantly more baseball experience than he does. Right? So I mean, like, the age at some point you do expect to kind of factor in. There is a little bit of a learning curve sometimes. But we've seen when it's that really, really special player, which, listen, I'm a Pirates fan too, okay? It gives me the heebie-jeebies to get too excited about a guy. I'm trained to temper that down. I'm trained to pretend that this system is solely responsible for whether a guy is successful or not. Sometimes a player transcends that. We just watched that happen with Paul Skeens. Okay, and I realize that's a pitcher, that's not a hitter, and yes, the history of hitters here, and all, I totally get what you're saying. But we had a really bad system when Andrew McCutchen squeaked through too, along with Starling Marte. You know, it can happen. And Konnor Griffin is giving every indication that he might be one of those. He might be one of those guys that coaching doesn't really have time to mess with because, first of all, they can't find anything to mess with. It was one of the first things I talked to my guy in Bradenton early on in the season. I think he was about 20 games in. And I was like, what's he look like? You know, I'm expecting the normal answer that I always get when I ask those guys about somebody that just got there. You know, he's starting to figure out the locker room. You know, he's starting to figure out, you know, the speed of the game's changed a little bit here. He's starting to figure out that he's not God's gift to such and such. There was none of that with Konnor. There was immediate, and I'm talking 20 games in, immediate. I got to tell you, Gary, he's probably ready for the next level. And I was like, wow, because I'd never heard that before. I've been talking to these guys for 6 years. Gets to Greensboro, talked to a couple guys that cover him a lot more closely than I do down there. And what do you think? Never seen anything like it before, Gary. I'm talking 20 games into his time in Greensboro. Never seen anything like it before, Gary. He's probably ready for Altoona. I can't believe what I'm hearing. These are guys that will talk me back from like going ape about some prospect that I just watched plug a couple home runs, and they're always there to temper my expectations. Not with this guy. Nobody can do it with Konnor because they haven't found it yet. So maybe he does just squeak through this system unabashed. They're certainly not holding him back. This is a guarantee that he starts in Altoona next year. And I'm not saying that it's a guarantee he makes the majors in 2026, but this 19-year-old just progressed 3 levels of a system that we all know is very hard for 99.95% of people. And he just did it. So who am I to tell him it's impossible next year? I would hope that whoever is the GM gets out of the way and lets this happen if it happens. If you luck into a Juan Soto, don't be the dummy that kept him in the minors till he was 23. When we come back, start talking about this rotation shakeup. It's kind of been a little bit crazy, and I think we're starting to see the dust settle a little bit. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the daily fantasy platform that lets you turn your football predictions into real rewards. Preseason is already heating up, and college football isn't far behind. Whether you've got your eye on a big-name quarterback or breakout running backs, PrizePicks makes it easy to get in the game. This upcoming season, man, they're so fascinating as a Steelers fan. I wish they'd let us see a little bit more of it in the preseason. Thank goodness for the flex pay option. It's a total game changer. Even when one of your picks misses, you still double your money. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 in lineups after your first $5 play. PrizePicks, run your game. All right, hey, welcome back to Locked On Pirates, everybody. Make sure you slam that subscribe button for me. I really appreciate it. Keep that coming in the comments, too. Really loved everybody's comments on the AMA. Some of you, I just got to stress to you, I pre-record the AMA. The questions you submit before it get answered when you ask me them right underneath the show. I'm not going to flag them for next time because I think your questions will probably change by the next time I do one. So I wish that I could tell you weren't wasting time. I will try to answer them underneath when I can, as long as it's not going to require me a novel. So the rotation shakeup and the bullpen chaos here, I think it's kind of settled now. We may not necessarily like where it is. We may not necessarily understand where it is, but I think we can talk our way through it and we can kind of understand why it is where it is. Okay. It actually makes a little bit of sense to me, some of what they've done here. Before I get into it, we'll talk about what it is right this second. Paul Skeens, Mitch Keller, Mike Burrows, Braxton Ashcraft, Carmen Majinski. Now hold your breath before you scream about those last two or three. Let's just take a deep breath and call that your five. That's the foundation of this five-man rotation that they're trying to operate here. Now, we should understand that a lot of what the Pirates had as backups or potential help for this rotation coming in were younger kids like Bubba Chandler, like Hunter Barco. Right this very second, Bubba Chandler, as I believe about 4 innings shy of his personal max as a pro. I believe you'll look to see him stretched another 30, maybe 35 innings this year, if possible. And the only reason I say that is because his pitch counts have not been allowing him to get bigger inning stretches, even if they wanted to give them to him. You know, when he's getting pulled after 4 innings, it's because he's used up his pitches. I mean, he doesn't have them left to give. Lately, the performance and the actual results haven't been there either. That's a separate issue that we'll discuss, but I just want to point out that the innings restrictions are very real. Even Johan Oviedo, another guy who has come up here once, will come back up here. You know, he's only had a few rehab starts. He's looked okay. I think he'll look okay when he comes back up here too, but you want to be real dainty with him. He had that Tommy John surgery. He came almost all the way back from that and then had a pretty severe lat injury. And with the lat injury, you have sometimes extra stress on an elbow trying to compensate for the lat injury. So you maybe don't start pushing back on that lat injury until you've really waited for it to completely subside to make sure that you're not going to get in the way of that arm rehab. And you got to start that over again. And it takes such a long time. And I think that's kind of where we are with Johan. So I don't think you want to really abuse him on the way out of the season. Hunter Barco's looked great. He's already at his innings. He's barely been getting more than 4 innings in recent outings, not because of bad performance either. He's looked great. I think Hunter could come up here and step right into a role. But here's what I think the Pirates are going to do, and I think Ben Cherington kind of alluded to it. For the rest of this season, I think what you can expect is Paul Skeens and Mitch Keller are your locks. Those are your starters. You're going to expect starts from them. You're going to expect typical starter performances from them. And that means, like, yeah, if Paul can go 5, 6, 7, that's what Paul should do. I do think with Paul, they're not going to restrict him to the point where I think you're going to cry foul. But let's just say, like, if he's at 92 pitches through 6 innings, there's a good chance they're not sending him out there for that 7th. Because while Paul wants 200 innings, and I think the Pirates will allow him to hit it, I don't believe they want him going very much over it. And in order to do that, I think you're just going to have to knock off that extra inning here and there. I think that sort of thing will probably get him through. And I think Paul would probably tell you that he's on board with that too after he started the project that was this season. He knows he doesn't want to invest a whole lot more innings into this either, and that's plenty for him to get the Cy Young, especially with Wheeler being injured now. That could be a definite blow to anyone else's chances unless Christopher Sanchez overtakes him. Regardless, Mike Burrows, Braxton Ashcraft, and Carmen Mlodzinski, yeah, I think they're going to get regular starts here, and I think we're going to see them use some of these other guys too. I think you're going to see Johan Oviedo come up and almost take half of one of those start days. You know, like they're going to plan on every time Mike Burrows goes, Johan Oviedo is going to be following him. Because Mike Burrows, another Tommy John returning player, is a guy that is getting close himself. And you can see they're pulling him out after like 66 pitches in 5 innings. Well, they're starting to baby the arm and make sure that they don't get too far beyond his inning count. I think he's got enough to finish this season as long as they handle him smart. So you could see them maybe calling like a Johan Oviedo up to kind of button with Mike Burrows. It's a different kind of pitcher. You'd be following up Mike Burrows with a power pitcher. I think that's different. And that could really be cool. You get people timed up on changeups all day and then go to somebody like him. This isn't what I think is going to happen going into next year. I would just advise you what you see the rest of this year to get through the innings puzzle that is the second half of a baseball season for a team that is in the playoffs. It's a patchwork, and it's an intentional patchwork. This is how I think you're going to see the debuts of Bubba Chandler and Hunter Barco. The way Bubba's pitching, there's a chance that Bubba gets like a thanks for the hard work type call up at the end of the season, not unlike Rowanzi Contreras a few years ago, where he comes up in the last day of the year. Mike Burrows even got one last year. Comes up and has like a 4-inning start, something along those lines. Thanks for what you did this year. Congratulations. Here's your MLB game check. You know, yes, the clock has started. You're here. Because they have to put him on the 40-man. So it just makes sense to knock it out in the season and reward the kid. Hunter Barco, I think you might see a little bit sooner. You know, I think you might see him back up here relatively soon. I could see Andrew Heaney being waived before the end of August here. And yes, it would be to save money, and I don't care. And if you care, I'm sorry. I mean, I don't need to defend that player. He hasn't performed. And they'll sell it as they're trying to give him a chance to latch on with a playoff team. No playoff team will want him. But that's going to be a whole social media argument when it happens. So I don't care about it now either. So I'm just telling you in advance, I don't care. So don't come whining to me that Andrew Heaney got cost some money at some point. That could probably work. That sort of juggling of those long relief guys who are supposed to be starters too. And what's good for the goose is good for the gander. You did it with Braxton Ashcraft. You did it with Mike Burrows, who started in the bullpen. You've done it with Carmen Majinski, who started in the bullpen, then went back to the bullpen. Now he's starting again. Nobody that you call up is going to be able to cry that they're hard done by, because everybody that they're in the rotation with and getting a shot with has been in the same exact spot, with the exception of Mitch Keller and Paul Skeens, who I think you're asking an awful lot of. They might be wise to separate them a little bit in this rotation mess that they're doing, if only to spare the bullpen. If you're going to continue to trot that 3-man conglomerate out back to back to back, I think you're just asking for bullpen trouble. So maybe you got to split up Keller and Skeens for the bullpen's sake. And that's still putting a lot on Skeens to make sure that they give you a whole hell of a lot in their couple starts. So it's risky, but like at some point, this is the way you had to do this. No matter when you debuted these guys, we'd still be managing innings one way or another. That's the way that these kids are on board nowadays. You don't have to like it or agree with it. I certainly am not going to argue with you over it. We had the pitching expert on to talk about this stuff so that you would stop arguing with me about it, actually. No, I mean, I have Eric on because he's interesting, but this stuff's done for a reason. I'm not even saying it helps. I don't think they can prove it helps. But I think you have a hard time convincing players that you're trying to take care of them if you're the one team pushing them harder than any other team would. So at some point it becomes you're not going to get guys to come here if you mess around with stuff like that. Somebody asked me in the Q&A on Friday about maybe a 6-man rotation. I kind of answered it in a flippant way, and I just wanted to revisit it. Like, I'm not saying that you can't have it, and they might wind up shaking out of this whole mess with that. But I think what I just explained to you about this rotation is a long form way of telling you why I think it's hard to get to a 6-man rotation. You're planning on short starts and you're depleting your bullpen night after night after night. And it's a bullpen that's not performing great to begin with. So you're just asking for disaster. And at some point, you don't want to reward these kids with call-ups to doom, okay? So if you bring them all up, yeah, there's something cool about having them here, but when we come back, I think I want to talk about another call-up possibility. And I guess I should touch on this Cubs series a little bit too, as much as I don't really feel like talking about it. August 26th is officially FanDuel Futures Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling your MVP, eyeing a long shot division winner, or ready to crown your Super Bowl champ before week 1, this is your moment. My champion, the Detroit Lions. Man, visit FanDuel app today and start planning your future bets now, because Futures Day is one day and one day only. FanDuel, play your game. Hey, welcome back to Locked On Pirates. Yeah, I don't want to do it, but I should. Pirates dropped 2 of 3 in Chicago. Starting pitching, I thought was pretty solid. Braxton Ashcraft, Mike Burrows, and Carmen Majinski. I think they all gave their team a chance to win. The bullpen didn't take it the rest of the way in 2 out of those 3 chances, but I do think that you can see the recipe there a little bit with this rotation if they let it breathe, if they just let it continue. I think I like it. I think it could be a good way to onboard these kids. I really do. The bullpen, though, it just continues to leak runs. Late inning collapses. It's hard for me to get on Isaac Mattson. He's been great. He was the downfall on Sunday along with Colin Holderman. I got to be honest with you. I'm not sure I can defend really calling up Colin Holderman. I know why they did it. The reason that you call up Colin Holderman is because he's arbitration eligible and you want to decide whether you're going to tender him or not. But I got to be blunt. He's not able to put up numbers in AAA, which he hasn't been. To me, that's enough of an answer, right? I mean, the arm talent is insane with Colin Holderman. It is. He and Kyle Nicholas actually mirror each other. They both have tremendous stuff. They both have a hard time harnessing said tremendous stuff. Now, Colin Holderman is a little worse than Kyle Nicholas. Colin Holderman, he either misses the zone by 6 inches or he throws it dead center heart of the strike zone, no matter what pitch he's throwing. Kyle Nicholas, he's more of a nibbler problem, where he's trying to be too fine with stuff that he doesn't need to be that fine with. And if they can ever talk him into just trusting his stuff on the edges, as opposed to trying to get people to chase, I think Kyle Nicholas will be right back to being a successful pitcher. It's worthwhile giving Colin Holderman a look. It's not like I can't see that, but man, I just didn't see it in AAA to warrant it. So maybe it's just an innings thing in and of itself, and you're going to get some innings out of this guy one way or another, and it very well could be that simple. This series, though, that's all I had to take away from it. The Cubs are, I think, in trouble. The Pirates hung way too tight with them to think that they have a shot in hell of overtaking Milwaukee after what we just watched. And I don't know. Kyle Tucker doesn't look like Kyle Tucker. I've never seen him play like this, not for this long of a stretch. Now, I'm not a Houston fan, so it's not like I followed closely. All right. Triolo versus Devaney, okay? Jared Triolo's last 15 games, legitimately, I want you to take a fresh-eyed look at him, okay? And here's why. You as a fan, you can decide that a guy is garbage and be done with him right now. It causes nothing. It doesn't hurt the player. The player's not cut over it. You can complain all you want. The team is the one that decides whether the player gets another shot or not. That doesn't mean you have to agree with it. I'm not trying to talk you into agreeing with it. I'm just trying to keep you open-minded, okay? Because Jared Triolo is significantly younger than Cam Devaney. And he has the same amount of team control, maybe minus 2 years. But he also would be, younger than he'd be like 32 by the time he's done with team control. Cam Devaney would be like 34 or so. I'm just saying, play the whole thing out as to why you want to make sure you've given a shot to Jared Triolo. If you're this team. In the last 15 games, a 280 average, 357 on base percentage, and a 340 slug. 2 home runs, 9 RBIs in 32 games. His defense is great. The bat's still not good enough. I think he needs to do some major changes to his swing to turn himself into something more than he is. The Pirates seem to be just fine with him being Jordy Mercer. And I think that's the best you can hope for with Jared Triolo. If they stick him at shortstop, I think Jordy Mercer would be a wonderful outcome for Jared Triolo. If that's good enough, that's good enough, okay? Cam Devaney, though, we know he's 28 years old, 272 average, 366 on base percentage, a 565 slug, 18 homers and 55 RBI. He's a versatile infielder. He's having a career year. He's old. I get it. But man, this seems to me like this right here is a decision that makes me really want to understand why you kept Isaiah Kiner-Falefa. And the reason I say that is because I think there's room for you to try both of these guys at the same time. And I think there's cause to want to. I'm not trying to argue the team out of wanting to see Jared Triolo. I'm sick of him too. Okay, I personally think I've seen enough of the bat, at least with this swing. Let me see another swing, and then I'll give you another shot. But I'm tired of it. Okay, and results don't sway me as much as what's causing the results. I'm still seeing that same inside-out swing. I'm still not seeing him jump on fastballs. I still don't see him use his legs. There's a lot of things that I just don't like about Jared Triolo. Love his defense. Devaney's glove looks really good too. And I want that offensive upside. Why did we keep IKF and block the potential of seeing both of those? We don't need to have this argument. There's a worthwhile shot to be given to both of those players. Nobody else is pushing for playing time there. So there's no reason anyone should argue if you let both of those guys do it. Maybe Liover Peguero has an argument. I should have maybe worked him into this conversation. But either way, IKF just is one too many players in this mix. And I don't see them sitting him. I like the leadership he provides. I like the stick he provides. But when the season stopped mattering, these questions started mattering to me. So if you got one roster spot, are you sticking with the glove you know or rolling the dice on the bat you don't? What do you think of Liover Peguero? You got to make a decision on him, like now. You got to decide whether you're going to make him a 26-man guy next year or not. That's not going to be easy if you don't play him. And play him consistently, too. I think we should be on Tommy Pham watch. I know he's hitting the baseball well recently. I know this. But I'm just pointing out that he could be waived before August ends. And they could potentially avoid some plate appearances bonuses doing that. Or sitting him an awful lot more. I'm just saying they could. And I think that's another guy that they could claim they're waiving, just like Andrew Heaney, so he could get that elusive playoff opportunity. It'll all be silly when they say it, and we'll laugh about it then. I'm just saying keep your eyes open until the end of August, because I think you're going to see the Pirates probably waive quite a few guys, whether you ever hear about them or not. And we'll see what happens from here on out. That's a wrap on today's episode of Locked On Pirates. From Konnor Griffin's meteoric rise to the rotations-controlled chaos to the Triolo versus Devaney debate, this team's future is anything boring. Don't forget to check out Locked On Steelers with my guy, Chris Carter. He's got the black and gold covered like nobody else. Until next time, let's go Bucks.